What do you think of the future of millimeter wave spectrum? And do you think T-Mobile and Verizon are targeting different types of customers?
With the millimeter wave spectrum, the way I see that being deployed here in the US, even a long term, is that it would be typically deployed in urban cities and all the way to city limits. And kind of the criteria that I would apply is in places in America where you see multi-story residential and multi-story business. I'm not that familiar with kind of the way your cities are laid out in China, but there's if you think of the city I live in, Seattle, there's a very core downtown area that is financial district and high-rise apartment buildings. But then you transition into more of suburban areas where you don't have the density of houses and you don't have the density of businesses. And I don't think that that millimeter wave spectrum is going to really effectively be used outside of, again, that multi-story residential, multi-story commercial. There's a lot of technologies that are kind of talked remote medicine where you could conduct remote surgeries, and that would require a lot of bandwidth, and it also would require kind of that instantaneous low latency network to control things. I think those have been kind of pushed out there as the reasons that we need to have millimeter wave and that 1 gig, 2 gig type performance. But a US company is kind of pulled back from kind of talking about specifically remote medicine. It has a lot of cost issues and some other issues that it's not really the springboard case any longer, that they've kind of pulled it off their sheet. But I think in general, the question is are we going to come up with services that demand high capacity and low latency? And one of the examples I've kind of always talked through that kind of fits those requirements would be XR or AR headsets, so augmented reality. Several years ago, I managed to, as I upgraded a phone, I got access to a VR headset. So I happened to, this is kind of my little story. What I ended up doing with that headset was I downloaded the NBA finals from that year. And you can definitely check the box with AR and VR that the file size, I downloaded 2 files that were each 14 gigabytes in size. So enormous. It happened to be the NBA Finals where the Golden State Warriors played the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's 4 or 5 years ago now. There are 2 players on the Golden State Warriors, Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, who even with that 14 gig file, they were almost indistinguishable. And they look very different from each other. So I think clearly there's the opportunity. VR and AR provide the opportunity of service that demands large file sizes. And definitely as you think about motion to prevent you from getting out of kilter, being real time, I think is also a really important component. I think where I still don't see that taking off is my use of that was driven on my home Wi-Fi network. So I'm not exactly sure why I would need a carrier's 5G network that I'm gonna sit at the bus stop and put on my VR headset and watch a 3D type event. I would probably do that at home. And then just kind of thinking from the economic side, if I am a wireless carrier delivering to your device 50 gigabytes, and that's essentially an hour worth of content. So clearly the carriers would have to find a way to start charging extra for that. And I think at that point, I don't see the cost benefit value that what I watched, would I pay $5 for it? Maybe. Would the carrier be willing to provide me that bandwidth for $5? I mean, that's a lot of bandwidth. Probably not. What would the carrier probably want? Maybe they want $50. I'm not interested. That's too expensive. So that's kind of the consumer push and pull that's going to be really challenging for applications that do use a lot of bandwidth. The question about whether T-Mobile and Verizon are targeting different customers, I think the only pushback I'd kind of give you on that is I don't think that there are clear customers for either of the two services yet. When I look at, I mean, I'm not finding for myself the need for additional speed over, essentially the LTE type speeds that I get. I can stream my favorite shows on my phone. I happen to not be a gamer, but you can do, to a certain degree, mobile gaming and things like that with 20 or 30 megabits per second. So I think that there has to be for really general customer adoption, we're going to have to see some services that really demand that you have much higher speeds available for them to work.